It has been nearly 2 years since Ozark Season 3 was released in March 2020. You remember, right? The time the world got shut down and we were all stuck at home binging Netflix show after Netflix show. While many of you have been dying for the follow-up to the insanity that was Ozark's cliffhanger Season 3 ending. Yeah, they're pretty good at leaving us on the edge of our seats with each ending finale. With Season 4 coming out in just a few days, we've got the entire Season 3 recap and ending for you right here, so you can pick up where you left off without having to re-binge nearly 10 hours of content. There are going to be spoilers ahead, and don't forget to subscribe and like the video for more future content. Also leave a comment with your thoughts on the show. Season 3 kicks off with a badass Narcos 2.0 sequence of guns, explosions, and cash, where we see the Navarros involved in a cartel war in Mexico. Reminder that the birds are laundering money for the Navarro cartel. The show quickly flips over to Papa Marty and Ruth, who are left managing the Missouri Belle Casino, while Wendy and Charlotte handle the public relations. Oh, yeah, and apparently Jonah is a Bitcoin farming god, secretly making millions of dollars that will bail out the entire situation that the birds have found themselves in. Okay, not quite. He's mining video game gold and selling it online, making what he says is $6,000 a month. Not too shabby for a 14-year-old kid. Darlene is still batshit crazy, and the first glance we have at her in Season 3 is slashing this lady's car tires. Wyatt still hates Ruth, refusing any help she tries to provide him, including bail money after he is arrested early in the season. That is until Darlene posts Wyatt's bail and employs him on her farm. Oh, yeah, and later in the season, Wyatt lies at Darlene's custody hearing, which allows Darlene to keep her adopted child. You remember this baby, right? I guess this turns Darlene on, and we later find out that together they start fulfilling some really freaky gilf fantasies while living together. Yeah. Throughout the entire season, Wendy and Helen continue to undermine each other from Omar Navarro's trust, sort of foreshadowing that eventually one of them will get the axe. Wendy proposes an expansion plan for Navarro that tugs on whatever heartstrings he has, ensuring that her plan would leave Navarro's children with legitimate cash and assets in case anything goes wrong during the cartel war. In episode 2, we are introduced to Wendy's brother Ben. That is this guy. He just got laid off from his teaching job and moves to the Ozarks to stay with the birds. Meanwhile, Wendy and Helen continue to try and secure the Big Muddy Casino in St. Joseph as another means of laundering money, while Marty Bird goes behind Wendy's back to stop the deal from happening. And this is the season where we really start to see Wendy Bird go full Heisenberg. She begins having more frequent secret phone calls with Navarro as he relies more and more on Wendy's intuition and ideas. Marty and Wendy's trust issues, they take another step when Marty sets up a bug to listen in on Wendy's calls and realizes that she is sneaking behind his back. Marty then goes behind Wendy's back and sabotages the Big Muddy's competing casino across the river by blowing it up during a fireworks show. This causes Big Muddy owner Anita to pull the deal to sell the business because now their casino can excel with no competition. But unfortunately, that plan doesn't really go too far, as immediately after, Ruth and Wendy rig the casino machines at Big Muddy to hit the constant jackpot payouts to the tune of $200,000 an hour to put them out of business. Shortly after, Anita and her husband Carl get into an argument about the business that does get pretty heated, to the point where Anita says she should have married Carl's brother instead of him because he was 3 inches taller. Talk about drama. Carl gets pissed off and somehow turns into Superman because this one karate chop sends his wife flying down the hill and killing her. Flipping back to the main characters, we constantly see Marty defending his actions, saying that they are the safest for the business and serve his family's best interests. But in reality, there's a lot more going on to Wendy and Marty's clashes. Throughout the season, we even see them both bribing their therapist in secret. The therapist starts making out like a bandit with way too much cash, spending it on flashy cars and items. Helen becomes more concerned that the therapist, Sue, knows way too much about the birds, and so she has her killed. Oh, and Wendy hates her husband so much that at one point she even starts having dreams about shooting Marty dead. I mean, look at that cheeky smile. Marty ends up striking a deal with the FBI to work for them after 18 months of incarceration as he begins to get more worried about their plans and how they won't pan out. Marty has always wanted out of the situation, but knows the consequences that might come with that. Helen senses that there's more weakness in Marty and ends up asking Ruth if she can oversee the Missouri Belle on her own, to which she agrees. Navarro ends up catching on to Marty, listening in on Wendy's conversations, and senses that there is a lack of trust between them. Navarro ends up having Marty kidnapped and flown to Mexico, where he is thrown in a jail cell. The cartel plays with the idea of killing Marty due to these trust issues, and they really want to know if Wendy can run the business on her own. When Navarro asks Marty why he spies on his wife, he admits that he fears her. Navarro mentions that he admires Wendy because of her clear intent and actions, as she asserts herself as the alpha and she knows what she wants. Eventually, Marty's expertise in money laundering is what sets him free, as one of the accounts gets flagged for suspicious activity. Marty shows Navarro how to regain control of the account and ends up answering Navarro's question about what he really wants. He says that he only wants to launder the money when it is safe, and he adds that he wants to be thanked for his expertise and regain Navarro's trust. Meanwhile, back at the Ozarks, Ben and Ruth start getting romantically intimate, but Ben can't seem to get the job done, if you know what I mean. So he stops taking his bipolar medication to, well, get the job done. This is going to prove to be important later in the season when his behavior becomes increasingly erratic since he's off his medication and starts drinking again. He beats up a random dude at a bar, leading to his arrest. After getting bailed out, Ben then shows up at a charity event that Marty and Wendy throw. In a full tantrum, Ben starts yelling, calling Wendy and Marty liars, and throwing a pretty mean right hook at Marty, getting himself admitted once again, but this time to the loony bin. This sparks Helen to call Navarro in order to tell him that Wendy and Marty are liabilities and putting all of the operation in danger. As tensions rise leading to the finale of the season, we really begin to see the inevitability that only one of Wendy or Helen is making it out of this whole ordeal alive. And with Ben's continued actions compromising and putting Marty and Wendy's lives at stake, Ben's own sister Wendy is left with no choice but to have him murdered after painfully realizing that he is indeed going to be a liability and put her children's lives at risk. On the bright side, this also shows Navarro that they're loyal to him and the cartel, and family does not come before the cartel's operations. Ruth ends up quitting working for Marty after her love Ben is killed by her own family, in addition to Marty just generally showing a lack of interest in Ruth all season. And that includes when she gets beat up by Frank Jr. It is Darlene who comes to Ruth's rescue by shooting Frank Jr. in the balls. Damn, talk about ruthless, Darlene. With nowhere to turn, Ruth goes to work for Darlene in their poppy-growing heroin business. Ultimately, all of this sets up for Marty and Wendy to kiss and make up at the end, as Marty consoles his wife and agrees to go with her plan by making Navarro see their true value. In order to win Navarro over, they realize that they need to end the cartel war, and they do this by showing FBI agent Maya Jonah's drone footage, which reveals earlier attacks on the Cosgrove trucks. That is where the U.S. citizens are killed on U.S. soil by the Mexican Laguna cartel, which results in the arrests of the Laguna cartel members. Jonah confronts Helen with a shotgun about Ben's death when she explains the truth behind her family setting up the murder. Now this might lead to some serious tension in season 4. As the battle between Helen and Wendy to earn Navarro's trust ensues, Helen lies to FBI agent Trevor that Marty wants to confess in exchange for witness protection. She plans to use a fake signed confession from Marty and show it to Navarro, who would then have them killed. Well, Helen, you just don't lie to the cartel like that. Wendy, Marty, and Helen are seen flying out to Mexico one last time in the closing sequence of season 3, where we see Nelson, Helen's bodyguard and driver hired by the cartel, giving Helen some serious sly eye on the flight. A quick cut back to Jonah, who completely flips out and pulls the shotgun trigger on the window, which was just previously set on Helen. They land in Mexico and Nelson puts a poetic bullet right through Helen's head, foreshadowed once again by the previous sequences with Jonah and Nelson. The blood from the shot covers a deer in the headlights, Marty and Wendy, as Navarro approaches to embrace them and let them know that this is just the beginning of their journey together. If you guys are excited for season 4 and enjoyed this recap, please don't forget to hit that like, subscribe for future content, and leave us a comment with your predictions for season 4.